Hi, this is my recording for the LaSalle and Vincentian Leadership Final, the individual student outcome story. Before I start, just a disclaimer, I got really sick over the last few days, so if my voice sounds off, it's out of my control, and I hope you can understand me clearly. So I titled this The Power of Thought. The individual student outcome of thought is defined as sound reasoning used to solve complex problems. The ability to think critically for the purpose of resolving issues has proven very significant throughout the course of history. It is because of these free thoughts that people such as George Washington and Thomas Jefferson were able to establish ourselves as a nation free of Great Britain and the grasp of tyranny that they had on our society. Later on, it was because of the three thinkers such as Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X that the country learned to uphold the standards of fair treatment and equal opportunity that every American is entitled to. To put it more simply, many of the advances that have been made in society can be attributed to the great thinkers throughout history who were able to use their gifts of thought to inspire change. Thought is a skill that I personally have a lot of experience with, as it has helped me many times in my life when I found myself stuck in tough situations, many of which seemed impossible to crawl out of. My story begins around April of 2020, when I was a 16-year-old sophomore. It had been about a month since everybody's life has changed drastically due to the lockdowns that took place as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, and people were just beginning to realize that 2 weeks to slow the spread was going to be a lot more than 2 weeks. It was around this time that I began struggling to accept the changes that had taken place in my life, all of which I had no decision in making. One of the struggles that came during this time was a feeling of loneliness and isolation. The only people I ever saw were my family members, and it even felt like I had little interactions with them since we were always doing our own thing. Another aspect about the pandemic that I had a hard time with was a lack of things to do. Everything was closed around this time, and I had little to look forward to whenever I woke up in the morning. Some mornings I would not get out of bed as I did not feel that I had any reason to. A third reality that I had a hard time accepting was how much of my high school experience was taken away from me. In just the last 3 months of my sophomore year, I missed out on a lot of events which I will never get back. I began to feel that my life was slowly but surely slipping away from me, and that I would never be able to make up for the time the pandemic took away. I was never diagnosed by a mental health professional, but I began displaying many signs of depression. I would neglect my health, not eating a lot and developing horrible sleep habits. I also felt a constant hopelessness every day during this time. The conditions that forced us to lock down were not showing signs of stopping, let alone slowing down. It felt like I was walking through a dark tunnel with no light at the end of it. While all of this was going on in my head, one night I thought to myself that all I had to keep me company sometimes were my thoughts. When I came to this realization, I reached the conclusion that I was making a choice to feel the way I did. As soon as that hit me, I began to work on my negative attitude, thinking of ways to improve my situation whenever I began to think bad thoughts. One of my most important thoughts I had was, why do I feel this way? After thinking long and hard about why I was in such a bad spot mentally, I discovered that while my life was hard due to the things that were going on, everyone else was dealing with the same thing. I also began to understand that my lifestyle and some of the decisions I was making contributed to my mental health. After accepting that I could no longer blame all of my inconveniences on something I had no control over, I began to make some necessary changes. One thing I began to do was get more exercise. Ever since the off-season training ended with the football team, I was not staying in shape. Getting more exercise was able to give me more energy throughout the day, and also more motivation to get up in the morning and start my day. Another drastic change I made was to my diet. Prior to making this change, I was eating very little and had taken a toll on my health. Soon after I fixed my diet, I found that my mood improved and I also felt better physically. I also began to get more sleep, going to bed around the same time every night, and I stopped the bad habit of staying up until the middle of the night and waking up early in the morning. The fourth and final adjustment I made in my lifestyle was that I began reaching out to my friends and distant relatives more often. In talking on the phone with the people I cared about, I was reminded that time was hard for everyone, and that sometimes talking to people about how you feel can relieve you of your negative thinking. I even began meeting some friends in person in conditions that we agreed were safe without gathering in large crowds. A little bit after making these conscious decisions to improve myself based on my thoughts, I began to notice how much my mental and physical health were improving. Things did not get better overnight, however, they got better. I think that the most important thing that this experience taught me was that you have to trust your thoughts, as it was through thinking over my situation and reaching conclusions about why my health was declining that I was able to fix my situation. I remember thinking to myself after my situation began to improve that if I could use my thoughts to fix that, I could use them for a lot more. In conclusion, thought is a very powerful skill to have, as many times in life, the solution to your problems can be to think about what is going wrong and what you must do to better it. Thank you for listening, and I hope this provoked some thought. Happy holidays.